Brock Lesnar, the beast incarnate. A walking war machine whose very footsteps used to shake arenas. The man who ended The Undertaker's streak, bulldozed John Cena into oblivion, and made an entire generation believe in pure dominance. But now? The roars are gone, the pyro's cold, the ramp is empty. No thunderous F5 South, no snarling entrances, just silence. And behind that silence? A scandal so toxic, so explosive, it's threatening to erase everything Brock Lesnar ever built. Because the latest chapter in Lesnar's story isn't about championships or broken bones. It's about something darker. Something that's forcing the WWE universe to ask, who is Brock Lesnar really? When the cameras aren't rolling? It all started with one name, Janelle Grant, a former WWE employee who just dropped a nuclear lawsuit that ripped through the wrestling world like a steel chair to the skull. In that lawsuit, she accuses not just Vince McMahon, not just former executive John Laurinaitis, but Brock Lesnar himself of sexual abuse, trafficking, and involvement in some of the most disturbing backstage behavior allegations the WE has ever faced. Janelle claims she was targeted, coerced, and passed around like property by the most powerful men in the company. That Vince McMahon personally forced her into sexual encounters, degraded her in exchange for her job, and locked her in rooms with executives who took turns assaulting her. She says she has the text messages, the photos, the proof that Vince McMahon even bragged about owning her, sending explicit images to others in WWE as if she was a prize to be shared. And then there's Brock. The lawsuit doesn't just name him. It paints him as part of the deal. Janelle says Vince McMahon literally texted her that part of the contract for re-signing Lesnar was her. That Brock Lesnar, a married man, a father, a legend, asked her to send him videos of herself urinating, that he wanted to set up a play date in December 2021. Plans only derailed by a snowstorm for fans who'd worshipped the beast for decades. This wasn't just shocking, it was devastating. The idea that the most physically intimidating man in WWE could be caught up in something this vile was unthinkable. Yet here it was, in black and white, part of a lawsuit so serious that the U.S. Attorney's Office has stepped in, telling Janelle to pause the case while a federal investigation unfolds. And make no mistake, this isn't just a PR nightmare. This is a full-on legal war, one that could blow open the doors on WWE's darkest secrets. Because if these allegations are true, they don't just take down Vince, they don't just take down Laurinaitis, they could drag Brock Lesnar's entire career into the gutter. Forever. The moment Janelle Grant's lawsuit hit the headlines, the wrestling world didn't just flinch, it went into full-blown meltdown. But the real shockwave came when she pressed pause. Not because she was backing down, but because the Fed stepped in. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York told her to stand down, while they launched their own non-public federal investigation into Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and Brock Lesnar. This wasn't some tabloid drama anymore. This was the government moving in, peeling back the velvet curtain of WWE's billion-dollar empire, looking for every scrap of evidence, every text, every photo, every whispered conversation. That could prove what Janelle had been saying all along. And if the whispers are true, they're not just looking at these three men. They're looking at the entire culture inside WN, the company's reaction, pure panic mode. Within days, Brock Lesnar vanished from all WWE programming. No more promos, no more posters, no more surprise entrances. His name scrubbed from match cards. His face deleted from merchandise. His character quietly pulled from video games. It was as if the beast incarnate had never existed. A man who used to main event WrestleMania was now erased like a botched storyline. Vince didn't want anyone to remember, but erasing him from TV didn't erase the questions. Because while W tried to act like nothing was happening, the fans weren't stupid. They saw the empty space where Lesnar used to be. They saw the company dumping his merch like it was radioactive. They knew this. Wasn't time off? This was WWE cutting the cord before the scandal burned the whole house down, and then came the darker realization. This wasn't even the first time Brock Lesnar's name had been tangled up with sexual misconduct. Oh no, the deeper you dig, the uglier it gets. Old stories started resurfacing. Back in his OVW days, before he was the Beast, Lesnar allegedly crossed a line with fellow wrestler Jim Cornette's then girlfriend during a match rehearsal after she'd specifically told him not to touch a fresh piercing. Brock didn't just ignore the warning. He went there, physically, without consent. She stormed out, furious, and Cornette, he nearly went for his gun, threatening to blow out Lesnar's kneecaps right there in the parking lot, and it didn't stop there. Former WWE manager Terry Runnels told her own story. Backstage at the 2003 Insurrection pay-per-view, Lesnar allegedly exposed himself to her in a room full of people, including her then-husband Goldust. Terry didn't react, not because she wasn't disgusted, but because she'd been told not to sell it, to just let it slide. But years later she made it clear, the disrespect was deliberate, and Brock knew exactly what he was doing. Suddenly, the shocking federal allegations didn't feel so out of nowhere. They felt like the final chapter in a pattern of behavior that had been hiding in plain sight for decades, a pattern that W either ignored, covered up, or simply didn't care about as long as the Beast kept drawing money. Now, with the feds breathing down everyone's necks, that money-making monster might just be the biggest liability WWE has ever had for years. Brock Lesnar's story was the stuff of legend. The South Dakota farm boy who wrestled his way into glory, stormed WWE like a one-man wrecking crew, and then crossed over into UFC to become heavyweight champion of the world. He wasn't just a wrestler. He was an apex predator in human form, the Beast incarnate. The next big thing, he crushed The Rock at 25 to become the youngest WWE champion in history. He ended The Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania, a feat no one thought possible. He destroyed John Cena in one of the most one-sided main events in WWE history. His suplexes were counted like body bags. His matches weren't contests, they were public executions. And with Paul Heyman at his side, Lesnar became something bigger than the business itself. An attraction so rare that even his part-time appearances felt like events, but behind the suplexes and the snarls was a man who never liked the spotlight as much as he liked the paycheck. Brock would vanish to his farm in Saskatchewan, hunting elk, avoiding crowds, speaking only when it suited him. He told interviewers he hated being around people, that big audiences gave him anxiety crashes for days. It was part of his mystique, the silent monster who'd appear, kill, collect, and disappear again. Yet in the wake of these allegations, that reclusive nature suddenly doesn't feel like mystique. It feels like insulation, distance, a deliberate separation from a world that might one day come knocking with questions he doesn't want to answer, and those questions are now here. The lawsuit, the texts, the pattern of behavior stretching back decades, the federal investigation that could turn Lesnar's part-time status into permanent exile. Even if the courts never convict him, the court of public opinion has already begun its trial. WWE, a company built on larger-than-life heroes, may decide it's easier to bury Brock Lesnar's memory than to risk the fallout of keeping him alive in their history books. This is the same man whose F5 could end a career in seconds. The same man who terrified giants, humbled champions, and redefined dominance in WWE. But now, that dominance is gone. The Beast is silent. And if these allegations hold, Brock Lesnar's legacy won't be the story of the unstoppable champion. It'll be the cautionary tale of how even the most untouchable monsters can fall, because in every legend eventually meets their ending. And for Brock Lesnar, this might be it. And that's where we leave it. For now, the Beast incarnate, once the most feared man in WWE, now standing on the edge of oblivion, with the feds circling and the fans wondering if they ever really knew the man behind the roar. This story isn't finished, and when the next chapter drops, you know it's going to shake the wrestling world again. So don't just watch from the sidelines, hit that subscribe, smash the like, and stay locked in, because when the truth hits, you're going to want to be here to witness every brutal second of it.